your name on it. Just put your name on it. That's all I say. Be a man or a woman. Put your name on it.
Well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads.
How the fuck you gonna know how to be great if you don't study greatness? Look at the game tape.
Donuts.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you're not a bad-looking man, Mr. Gals.
But you are, Blanche. You are in that chair.
There's something wrong with us. Something very, very wrong with us.
Oh, hey, buddy. Oh, yeah.
All right. Diggity. Bob Morton is our guest, and our Amazon purchase of the show is at Mark McD4. Mark McDonough, I guess is how you would say his real name. JJ, I went to jmoore.com, I clicked the Amazon link, and I bought the book about Youngstown's Boom Boom Mancini. He bought The Good Son by Mark Kriegel, the book about Ray Mancini. Ray Mancini was here promoting that very book. And there you have it, Mark McDonough. Thanks for coming, Morty, my man.
My pleasure, Jay, to see your garage.
You saw the baby.
The baby's adorable. Very cute baby.
Is that right?
But looking at your life in this garage, it's great.
It's not a man cave by any stretch. Hold your mic closer to your mouth.
No, it's not a man cave.
I always feel like guys that have man caves, it's a weird thing that you have to announce to me, like, you got to check out my man cave.
And the man cave's usually a garage with
a whole
double
bunch
doors.
of shit in it. But it's like you're letting me know you've been hoarded out of your own house by your wife. That's what man cave. That's secret code for this is all I have.
You're fucked. You're in trouble.
This is all I have. This room with a fucking Ravens jersey. Yeah. The Chris McAllister jersey from 2001. So this is all I got. I come out here and she doesn't talk to me.
And the Sinatra pictures.
Yeah, we got the Sinatra.
I love that.
We got the rabbit.
Did you ever meet him?
I never met Sinatra. You?
Oh, yeah.
Tell us, Bob Morton.
Oh, yeah.
Bob Morton, by the way, how many Emmy nominations?
11.
And that's for David Letterman?
David Letterman, John Leguizamo.
What was John? What'd you do with
Freak.
him?
The Special Freak. Remember that?
Was it on HBO?
Yeah.
So how many?
He won an Emmy for it. I did not.
You were the executive producer of the David Letterman show for how long?
I was with him for 14 years. I ran the show for 9 of the 14.
So for the listeners that go old school Letterman, 12:30 Letterman like me in high school, staying up late to catch it because it was subversive and underground, every time Letterman looked over to the side and said, "How are we doing on time, Morty?" This is the fucking guy, dude. It's Morty.
This is me.
It's Morty. And
JJ!
9 Emmy nominations for Letterman? Are all your answers
something
about like Ed Koch?
I'm not, because honestly, I don't think
Ed Koch?
Most of them were with Letterman, yeah, but I had a few other straggling ones.
Like Leguizamo's a straggler?
No, but others that were not part of a series, specials that I've done in my illustrious career.
So how many?
I actually went down to my garage. You talk about garages. I keep all my DVDs and videotapes and show notebooks in my garage.
You've been hoarded out of your home by your wife?
I have.
The rest of the home is where she wants shit.
But I wanted to find the Mohr Sports, my little notebook of Mohr Sports. And I opened the fucking door, and I'm looking at all these DVDs, and I'm thinking, this is the Museum of Mediocrity.
What?
I'm telling you something. It was so I couldn't find yours, so you're spared, pal.
Mohr Sports.
I couldn't find anything of it. I think it was when I first used my computer for shit on a show. So I didn't have any notebooks or DVDs or anything.
So I need a clean answer. How many Emmy nominations for Letterman?
9.
Okay. When did you meet Sinatra?
I met Sinatra a few times.
Whoa.
I met Sinatra a bunch of times, actually, and he liked me, which was the weirdest thing in the world, because the day I met him...
I heard that Morton's a Jew.
The day I met him, I went to Raiders, and don't ask how, I became friendly with Jilly Rizzo.
How do you not ask how?
I don't know how it happened. A friend of mine knew his daughter, and I just started hanging out with him. And I'd go to restaurants with him, and I used to bug him all the time. When can I meet Sinatra?
In New York.
In New York, yeah.
And this is when you were executive producing Letterman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is probably...
You were hot shit, bro.
Yeah, I was.
You are.
No.
But now you're like a dad, which to me is hotter shit, and to the listeners are hotter shit. But the fact that you were the guy, like
I was I was the luckiest guy. I was at the right place at the right time, and I was single.
Yeah.
I was making decent money.
Threw a lot of ass.
I had a great apartment on the river. I mean, I had a house in Hudson River. I had a house in the Hamptons. You know, I mean, I had a great life. I had a great thing going. My life is different and better now, but man, I had a great. The
Hamptons.
I was telling somebody yesterday, I used to get from the League of New York Theaters every month a list of all the shows that opened on Broadway. And I'd have 2 tickets held for me to every show. I just had to check the ones I wanted, RSVP, and I'd have 2 seats on the aisle, and I was a single guy. And I was dating and had the greatest access ever to everything. Sports, concerts.
Is that because of the Letterman show?
Yeah, of course.
That's brought a lot of juice.
Yeah. Oh, it was,
everybody wanted to make nice in case they had somebody that they
everybody wanted to get on TV.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to get on TV, and so I think we were on fire at the time. I mean, how heady was it on Saturday Night Live when you walked into that building?
Yeah.
It's pretty heady stuff.
When I did Letterman, and when I'm not going to stray too far from you meeting Sinatra, when I did Letterman, I've done Leno 18 times, and he was on the podcast. He's been a great friend and he's really great to comics, Jay.
Oh yeah, always has been.
But for some
Jay's getting a bum's rush.
Oh yeah.
Believe me, Jay.
But everyone talks shit about him, and it's like, you know what? You fucking do. You do a 12-minute monologue every night, and they go, well, he has a staff. Okay, you sit down with the staff every day and just go through the monologue and hurt people's feelings, like this joke I don't like, this joke I like. I did Access Hollywood Live, and I left at 9 a.m. Leno's car was already there.
Yeah. Oh no.
And he goes, oh yeah. And then he explained to me, 11-minute monologue is 44 jokes.
44 jokes. I mean,
and
he might have writers, right. But there are comics that work on 12 minutes of material for a lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, there are guys that still are doing the same 12 minutes they've done.
Jay Leno. But you know what? They're not bad. Like Dave's monologue is, people always say, and I'll speak carefully here. People always go, it's the anti-monologue. And I always go, bullshit. No writer worth his weight in salt has so little ego that he can hand in bad jokes on purpose.
No writer, no comic could ever get up on stage and by design not get laughs. Yeah. Anti-monologue, what does that mean? You're not going for laughs?
Well, it's like he's mocking the monologue.
I mean, Letterman was brilliant because he knew every joke on that show. And we talked about this when we were working together, I think. He knew that every line on that show had to be a joke. To the extent where the whole first act of that show, the opening was usually from New York, a city that with a joke.
Yeah.
And now here's a man who...
I forgot about... Yeah.
Remember, he said, a man who's not wearing any pants, David Letterman. So right off the bat, the first 20 seconds of the show, 2 jokes, right? Then he'd come out and he'd do 5 or 6 jokes in a monologue. So you figure by the time he goes over to the desk, he's already told 10 jokes.
And then you got the life vest that is the
top 10 list, which is 11 jokes.
And
the category and the 10 jokes. So right off the bat, that first act was 40 jokes.
And it's in the bank every night.
In the bank every night. I mean, and it was that well engineered by him. You said the key
by
phrase.
Letterman. That's by what do you mean by him?
By Letterman.
He came up with the top 10 list, or did you?
Top 10 list was interesting. The derivation of the top 10 list is subject to some debate. Steve O'Donnell was the head writer on the show. He created the top 10 lists. I was never given credit, but I've been in conversations with people who have said, I remember we were standing in the lobby at the Letterman show, and it was when People magazine was pretty young, and they first came out with their first top 10. I don't even know what the fuck it was, hunkiest dits, whatever it is. I don't know. So
that was it.
We said hunky, yeah, whatever.
Hunky dits.
Hunky dits. And so we talked about, we should do our own, and Steve O'Donnell said, yeah, let's
And now that's not at the Ed Sullivan Theater. That's where Conan.
Oh no, this is at NBC. Yeah.
At NBC on 6th floor.
13th floor. 14th floor.
14th floor
Yeah,
was the
yeah,
Letterman.
yeah.
The live audience show was on the 14th.
Oh no. The studio was on the 6th floor.
Hey,
The office,
come on, Morty.
No, the office was on the 14th.
Yeah, I might have been born, but it wasn't at night.
No,
Wait,
no,
what?
no, it was.
I might have been born, but it wasn't at last night on a truck. So, tell me about when you met Sinatra. What I was going to say is when I did Letterman, I was nervous the night before, 2 nights before, the night before, and when I woke up, I had a knot in my stomach, and it wasn't until I sat down and Dave, it's almost like he tried to trick me, like a pump fake in football, and I didn't take the fake, and I gave shit right back, and then he laughed for real, and I went, oh my God, this is working. Because I was telling the story about walking.
But it's funny how he tests you.
Yeah. And it was like his douche detector. Like I go, so then we went to Lorne's office. He goes, Lorne Green? I go, yeah. And he knew that I knew. He knew I wasn't saying yes for real. It was me going like, yeah. And then I just went right over it. And then as I'm finishing my story, you just hear him off camera going,
Oh, that's funny.
and then he just liked me. But I was more nervous. I was like, I couldn't talk.
Oh, I'm just, you're talking at NBC or at CBS?
Ed Sullivan.
I mean, you walk out on that Ed Sullivan Theater stage. That's daunting.
I have no idea what it looked like. I just remember Biff backstage.
All you know is, and it's the same thing. I don't care how old you are. You go onto that stage, you look up at that balcony, and you see that rail that all these girls were hanging over and screaming.
That's all I could think of was girls screaming at the Beatles.
That's all you could think of whenever you're in that
theater. You know what brought me to earth in the good way? Biff Henderson backstage telling me which direction to take when I walked. I just looked at him. It was like an old friend, even though we had never met. I went, Biff. He goes, Jay.
That's...
like, we never met, but I was like, oh my God.
Hey, that's where Biff is he's a great stage manager.
And he goes, you're just going to walk straight out and do, and I go, Biff, Jay.
Biff's out of his mind though.
Of course.
Biff is, Biff.
Fucking union stage manager.
No. Biff has all these crazy rituals. I mean, he goes out before the show onto the stage and gets on his hands and knees and kisses the stage.
Just the stage, not the performer.
Kisses the stage every night. I don't know. Maybe
Did you ever kiss Paul Schaefer's head by mistake?
Facing, Mecca. I don't know what the hell he's doing, but he's down there kissing the floor.
How much of that band are they huge potheads?
Used to be. I don't know how they are now.
Paul Schaefer
used to be. You used to walk down that hallway on the 6th floor. That's when it was on the 6th floor.
Yeah.
And
the NBC was 6th floor.
You couldn't
30 Rock.
You couldn't breathe. I mean, it was the greatest fog ever.
Paul Schaefer's such an odd guy that I think he must be just so baked that I don't get it. Yeah,
I think it's part of that and part that he's Canadian. I think it's a real combination. I can't blame the pot for that. That's
That's another thing. Like
he's a musician.
I'm not blaming the pot. I'm just saying that's the other thing, and I'll give them full credit. Is you talk about Dave and Jay and the amount of jokes, just the factory, the amount of jokes. Like going in and out of break every night and doing different songs with a group of guys, and then Pearl Jam comes, and then Paul did a super smart thing where their renegotiation with CBS, any band that comes on has to play with the Paul Schaefer CBS orchestra.
No. That dated
like
back.
I said,
I'll tell you how that happened. No, it did happen. No. When we were at NBC, it's an interesting story. When we were at NBC, Carson Productions, Johnny Carson's company, owned the show. So when we first went on the air, I wasn't the producer at the time. I was a segment producer. But they came a list of rules from the Carson people. You can't have certain acts on. Hackett was one of the acts. Couldn't have Hackett on. You couldn't have Stephen Eady on. You couldn't have Rickles on. You couldn't have this one on.
Oh, Stephen Eady.
I'm telling you,
don't take them from us.
Carson gave a list of people you couldn't have on, which forced us to put our own people on. And it made the show that much better.
I was going to say, that's what made the show.
And he then you couldn't have horns in the band.
Because that was Doc.
You couldn't have, he couldn't do an actual monologue. That's why Letterman's monologue is different. Because Carson said, Johnny owns the monologue. You can't do a monologue. He could do opening remarks. And that's what we used to call him. For years at NBC, on the rundown, you never saw a monologue. It always said opening remarks. And that was because Carson said, you can't do jokes. You know, and it was incredible, and it forced him to do things differently. We couldn't have full bands on. That was the Tonight Show. Your show can't have bands, which is why whenever a band came on, they played with Schaefer.
The Grateful Dead is the biggest example where you go, I think there's only two guys. Like, that's not the Grateful Dead. That's Jerry and Bob Ware.
I know. And it was unbelievable.
Which is the only two guys you really like.
It's the only two guys you knew.
Bob Ware, really.
No, what's his name? Mickey Hart.
Yeah, the crazy smoking drummer.
Just got arrested.
Did he?
For assault. I saw it in the paper.
Assaulting his drums.
For him.
And is our guest, and our Amazon purchase of the show is at Mark McD4. Mark McDonough, I guess is how you would say his real name. JJ, I went to jmohr.com, I clicked the Amazon link, and I bought the book about young...
Put your name on it. Just put your name on it. That's all I say. Be a man or a woman. Put your name on it.
Well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads.
How the fuck you gonna know how to be great if you don't study greatness? Look at the game tape.
Donuts.
Oh, yeah!
You know, you're not a bad-looking man, Mr. Gals.
But you are, Blanche. You are in that chair.
There's something wrong with us. Something very, very wrong with us.
Oh, hey, buddy. Oh, yeah.
Towns, Boom Boom Mancini. He bought The Good Son by Mark Kriegel, the book about Ray Mancini. Ray Mancini was here promoting that very book. And there you have it, Mark McDonough. Thanks for coming, Morty, my man.
My pleasure, Jay, to see your garage.
You saw the baby.
All right. Diggity, diggity.
Bob Morton.